When balloons flew at 30,000 feet, this geologist traced their path. In the waning months of World War II, as Allied forces closed in on the Japanese homeland, a desperate empire unleashed an invisible aerial assault on the American continent. It was November 3, 1944, on the eastern shores of Honshu Island, Japan, where the Imperial Japanese Army's 9th Technical Research Laboratory initiated Operation Fugo. Thousands of hydrogen-filled paper balloons, each 33 feet in diameter, were released into the jet stream, carrying deadly payloads of incendiary and high-explosive bombs across 6,000 miles of Pacific Ocean. Little did the world know, these silent invaders would test the resolve of a nation, until one woman's scientific insight unraveled their origins. The roots of this audacious campaign traced back to the shockwaves of the Doolittle raid on April 18, 1942. Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle's B-25 Mitchell bombers had struck Tokyo, shattering Japan's illusion of invulnerability and igniting a thirst for retaliation. Major General Sueki Kusaba, head of the 9th Army Technical Research Laboratory, was tasked with devising a weapon that could strike the American mainland without risking precious aircraft or pilots. Drawing on ancient principles of balloon flight, enhanced by modern meteorology, the Fugo project was born in secrecy at the Noborito Research Institute near Tokyo. These were no ordinary balloons. Constructed from mulberry paper, or washi, laminated in 5 layers with konnyaku glue derived from devil's tongue plant, each envelope measured 10 meters across and could lift up to 1,000 pounds. The payload included a 33-pound anti-personnel bomb and 4 11-pound incendiary devices, designed to ignite vast forest fires in the Pacific Northwest's timberlands. Altitude control was ingenious. 32 sand-filled ballast bags, each weighing 7 pounds, were automatically released via altimeters and fuses to maintain a cruising height of 30.0 feet where the jet stream propelled them at speeds up to 120 miles per hour. In Wyoming on December 6th, a balloon landed near Thermopolis, its 15-kilogram high-explosive bomb failing to detonate, but scattering shrapnel-like fragments. Farmers and loggers stumbled upon them, the metallic gondolas tangled in branches, fuses still smoldering. The U.S. military scrambled. The Western Defense Command, under Lieutenant General John L. DeWitt, established a secret task force involving the Army's 4th Air Force and the Navy's 9th Fleet. By January 1945, over 285 incidents were logged, from a balloon snagged in power lines near Estacada, Oregon, causing a brief blackout, to one that drifted into the Hanford site in Washington, momentarily disrupting plutonium production for the Manhattan Project. Fear gripped the civilian population as rumors spread. In Seattle, air raid wardens patrolled with heightened vigilance, scanning the skies for these ghostly intruders. The Office of Censorship imposed a total media blackout, coordinated by Director Byron Price, to deny Japan any intelligence on the bomb's effectiveness. Newspapers were forbidden from reporting sightings, leaving communities isolated in their anxiety. Soldiers from the 555th Parachute Infantry Battalion, an all-African-American unit known as the Triple Nickels, were deployed as smoke jumpers to combat potential forest fires, parachuting into rugged terrain with shovels and axes, their boots crunching on frost-covered underbrush. As spring approached, the tension mounted. On March 10, 1945, a balloon bomb struck near Toppenish, Washington, igniting a small brush fire that raged for 2 hours before containment. Military analysts pored over recovered debris at the U.S. Army's Chemical Warfare Service labs in Edgewood Arsenal, Maryland, but the origins remained elusive. How were these devices launched? From submarines? Aircraft carriers? The uncertainty weighed heavily on commanders like Major General Harold H. George of the Army Air Forces, who feared escalation to biological warfare. Rumors swirled of plague-infected rats as payloads. Little did they know, the key to unraveling the mystery lay in the humble grains of sand clinging to the ballast mechanisms. By April 1945, with over 1,000 balloons estimated to have reached North America, the threat felt omnipresent. In the quiet towns of the Midwest, families huddled around radios, whispering about ghost bombs from the east. The human cost began to emerge. Minor injuries from handling debris, but the dread was palpable. A silent siege from 30,000 feet. The crisis peaked on a serene Sunday morning, May 5, 1945, in the pine-dotted hills near Bly, Oregon. Reverend Archie Mitchell, a local pastor, had organized a picnic for his pregnant wife, Elsie, and 5 children from his Sunday school, Jay Gifford, Edward Engen, Sherman Shoemaker, Dick Patsky, and Joan Patsky, ages 11 to 14. As they explored Gerhardt Mountain, about 60 miles east of Klamath Falls, the group stumbled upon a strange object half buried in the duff, a deflated balloon with its gondola intact. Curiosity turned to horror in an instant. One of the children tugged at a dangling cord, triggering the 33-pound anti-personnel bomb. The explosion ripped through the forest with a deafening roar, sending shards of metal and earth skyward. The blast wave hurled bodies like rag dolls, the acrid smell of gunpowder mingling with the metallic tang of blood. Elsie Mitchell and the 5 children were killed instantly, their forms mangled amid the splintered trees. Archie Mitchell, standing just yards away, survived with minor injuries, but the trauma etched deep into his soul. The weight of that moment? The screams cut short, the sudden silence broken only by falling debris. This was the only known fatality from enemy action on the continental United States during World War II. The incident sent shockwaves through military channels. At the Pentagon, analysts from the War Department's Military Intelligence Service scrambled, realizing the balloon's potential for mass terror. By this point, the Fugo campaign had caused over 300 documented incidents across 26 states, from Alaska's frozen tundra to the deserts of Arizona. Fires erupted in Montana's national forests, consuming 1,000 acres near Kalispell, while in Michigan, a balloon downed power lines, blacking out a Detroit suburb for 3 hours. The impossible situation deepened. American defenses were powerless against these high-altitude drifters. P-38 Lightning fighters from the 432nd Fighter Squadron scrambled from bases like Walla Walla Army Airfield. But intercepting at 30,000 feet proved futile. The balloons were too small, too numerous, blending into the clouds. Radar systems like the -584 Seychelles rupees struggled to detect the non-metallic envelopes. Commanders faced a dilemma: alert the public and risk panic, or maintain silence and endanger lives. The human cost weighed heavily, families like the Mitchells, innocent civilians caught in war's distant shadow. In laboratories across the country, scientists examined fragments. At the U.S. Geological Survey's headquarters in Washington, D.C., recovered ballast sand sat untouched at first, grains that held secrets of distant shores. The pressure mounted on the home front. Whispers of invasion grew. For the soldiers and civilians alike, fear gripped their hearts. The sky itself had become the enemy, an unrelenting, invisible foe. What happened next would become legendary, as one geologist's keen eye pierced the veil of mystery. Amid the despair, hope emerged from an unlikely source: the basement laboratories of the U.S. Geological Survey in Washington, D.C. It was here, in the dimly lit rooms dubbed the Dungeon, that Dr. Julia Anna Gardner, a 59-year-old paleontologist and mollusk expert, led a team of dedicated scientists known as the Dungeon Gang. Gardner, one of the first women hired by the USGS in 1909, had built a career studying ancient seashells, her work spanning from the Gulf Coast to the battlefields of World War I, where she had mapped terrain for Allied forces. In early 1945, as balloon debris piled up, military couriers delivered samples of the sandy ballast to Gardner's desk. These grains, ejected to maintain altitude, were no ordinary dirt. They contained microscopic fossils, the remnants of ancient marine life. With sheer determination against impossible odds, Gardner and her team, including foraminifera specialists like Esta Aplin on loan from Texaco, donned magnifying glasses and microscopes, sifting through the samples amid the hum of ventilation fans and the faint scent of preserved specimens. The analysis was meticulous. Under high magnification, they identified tiny foraminifera, single-celled organisms with calcareous shells, alongside diatoms and radiolarians unique to specific geological formations. Comparing these to global reference collections, Gardner traced the sand to 2 precise locations: the beaches near Ichinomiya in Chiba Prefecture and Shiogama in Miyagi Prefecture, Japan. "These shells tell a story," Gardner reportedly said, her voice steady amid the tension. As the team worked 18-hour shifts, their eyes strained but resolve unbroken. The breakthrough came in March 1945. One sample from a balloon recovered in Attu, Alaska, revealed Amphistagena lysoni, a foraminiferan species endemic to Japan's Pacific coast. Cross-referencing with pre-war geological surveys, the team pinpointed the exact sands used for ballast, harvested from those very beaches to avoid detection. This revelation was electric. The launch sites were coastal, vulnerable to aerial attack. Gardner's report, classified top secret, reached the desks of General Curtis LeMay's 21 Bomber Command within days. Empowered by this intelligence, B-29 Superfortresses from the 313th Bombardment Wing launched precision strikes. On April 15, 1945, waves of bombers roared over Honshu, targeting the hydrogen production facilities at Hitachi and Atsu. The deafening thunder of 500-pound bombs shattered the plants, flames erupting in billowing columns against the night sky. Launch operations at Ichinomiya ground to a halt, crews scattering amid the rubble. Gardner's insight had turned the tide, her quiet laboratory heroism echoing the frontline valor of soldiers. The triumph of human spirit shone through, a woman's intellect dismantling a nation's secret weapon. By April 1945, the Fugo campaign faltered. Japan's resources dwindled, hydrogen supplies crippled by the bombings, and only a fraction of the 9,300 balloons reached their targets. The program was officially terminated in April, costing Japan an estimated 10 million yen but yielding minimal strategic gain. On the American side, the toll was light in material terms, fewer than 300 fires. Most contained swiftly, and property damage under $1 million. Yet the human cost lingered. The 6 lives lost in Bly, Oregon, a poignant reminder of war's reach. Casualties were verified. Elsie Mitchell, 26, and the children, Jay 13, Edward, 13, Sherman, 11, Dick, 11, and Joan, 13. Their names etched on a memorial stone at the Mitchell Recreation Area. No medals were awarded to the victims, but the incident spurred posthumous recognition. For the military, the 555th Parachute Infantry Battalion received commendations for their firefighting efforts, while the censorship campaign was hailed as a success, preventing widespread panic. Julia Gardner's contribution earned her the War Department's Certificate of Appreciation in 1946, though her work remained classified for decades. She continued at the USGS until retirement in 1952. Her legacy as a pioneer in military geology inspiring future generations. The Fugo balloons marked a milestone in warfare, the first intercontinental weapon system, foreshadowing ballistic missiles. Their story underscores the ingenuity and desperation of total war, the interplay of science and strategy, and the enduring human spirit amid adversity. Today, remnants reside in museums like the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force, silent testaments to a forgotten front. Production was a national effort, mobilizing over 10,000 workers, many of them teenage schoolgirls conscripted from across Japan. In vast hangars at sites like the Kukura Arsenal, these young women labored under harsh conditions, their small hands piecing together the fragile spheres amid the acrid smell of glue and paper dust. By late 1944, the launch sites were established on beaches near Ichinomiya in Chiba Prefecture, Nakozo in Fukushima, and Atsu in Ibaraki. From these windswept sands, under the cover of night, teams of soldiers inflated the balloons with hydrogen produced at nearby factories, releasing them in waves to ride the high-altitude winds discovered by meteorologist Weizaburo Oushi in the 1920s. This operation was critical for Japan, facing resource shortages and mounting defeats. The balloons represented a low-cost, high-impact terror weapon, aimed at diverting American resources and sowing psychological fear. For the United States, oblivious at first, the strategic situation was one of complacency on the home front, with war efforts focused overseas. But as the first balloons began their 5-day trans-Pacific journey, the stage was set for an unprecedented chapter in aerial warfare. By November 1944, the launches intensified. On the beaches of Ichinomiya, amid the crashing waves of the Pacific and the biting coastal winds, Japanese crews worked feverishly. Each balloon required precise inflation, 19,000 cubic feet of hydrogen, sourced from plants like the Hitachi Hydrogen Factory. As dawn broke on November 3rd, the first Fugo ascended, its paper skin shimmering in the early light, vanishing into the stratosphere. Over the next 5 months, approximately 9,300 would follow, released in batches of 200 to 300 per day during optimal weather windows. The journey was perilous even for these unmanned vessels. Buffeted by turbulent winds at 30,000 feet, where temperatures plummeted to -50 degrees Fahrenheit, many balloons burst or veered off course, landing harmlessly in the ocean. But hundreds pressed on, crossing the international dateline undetected. The first confirmed sighting came on November 4, 1944. when a U.S. Navy patrol boat spotted a deflated balloon floating off San Pedro, California. By December, reports trickled in from Alaska to Mexico. Strange orbs descending in remote forests, their payloads detonating with sharp cracks that echoed through the pines.